Welcome to Binge Breakthrough, the podcast designed to help you finally break through the barriers that keep you stuck, feeling out of control around food. I'm Master Certified Coach Jane Pilger, and I want you to know that no matter how long you've been struggling or what you've tried, food freedom is possible, and I'm here to show you how. After years of therapy, eating disorders treatment, restrictive diets, and reading all the books, I was still stuck in the on-again, off-again cycle of restricting and binging until I was able to see it all from a new perspective that changed everything. Each week, I will share the strategies, tools, and mindset that allowed me to overcome my decades-long battle with binge eating. Your journey to body trust starts now. Let's dive in. Hello, trusted listener. Welcome to Binge Breakthrough. I consider you a trusted listener because I trust that you are listening today for a reason. I trust you are going to hear something today that might be impactful on your journey with food. So let's dive in. So this episode today was actually inspired by a recent conversation that I had with someone who attended my recent virtual event. And she asked me, she said, I know you talk about the importance of removing restriction, but what is the difference between restriction and healthy discipline? So healthy discipline is not a term that I would usually use, but since she asked it this way, I figured that many other people likely have this question, and I wanted to address it here on the podcast. So shout out to my friend across the pond for asking this question. And if you have questions or topics you want to hear on the podcast, email me at hello@janepilger.com, and I would love to hear your ideas and suggestions. And who knows, you just might inspire the next episode. All right, so back to this question. First, let's dive into the idea of healthy discipline. So we could look at this in two ways. The first way we might look at it would be focusing on health as an outcome and using discipline to achieve that desired results. Or we could look at it in another way, and we could look at it as a type of discipline that comes from a place of nurturing and support rather than rigidity or control. And for the purposes of this podcast, I'm going to talk about the idea of healthy discipline as the second definition. So I went to my trusted resource of Word Hippo to look at some of the definitions of the word discipline. And one of the definitions that I really resonated with that I'm going to be talking about here is this definition: to care for and protect someone or something while they are growing. I love this. That feels very from that place of nurturing and support that we talked about. Now, there were other definitions in Word Hippo of discipline that I find to be more problematic. So these definitions focus more on control, rigidity, punishment, and criticism. This is not the type of discipline that we're talking about here. So let's go back and just remember kind of some framework here. I talk about 8 reasons why you binge. I have identified 8 underlying reasons that often lead people to binge, feel out of control with food, just in general, show up with food in ways they would really rather not. Those 8 reasons are highlighted and reviewed in the very first handful of episodes of the Binge Breakthrough podcast. So if you want to go back and revisit any of these, you can go back and check them out. But reason number 1 is shame and judgment. So often, if we're in shame and judgment over our eating behaviors, we are not really able to be open, to be curious, to really look at what's going on underneath. So shame and judgment will keep us stuck. If we're talking about these definitions of discipline that are focusing on punishment, criticism, that really is going to lead towards judgment, which is going to keep us stuck. The number two reason why people feel out of control with food sometimes is restriction. And we're talking about that in reference to this question. And then the number six reason why people feel out of control around food is an attempt to control. So this goes back to those kind of more problematic definitions of discipline in word hippo: control, rigidity. That is that attempt to control. So we're not talking about discipline in this place of control, rigidity, punishment, criticism. That's going to put us right back into some of these reasons why people feel out of control in the first place, combined with that reason number two, which is restriction. Okay, so when we talk about healthy discipline in terms of distinguishing the difference between restriction and healthy discipline, we're talking about making choices that feel nurturing and supportive in a way that honors yourself and your needs. Now, I also want to say health might not be a value of yours. It might not be important to you to take health into consideration when making decisions regarding what you want to eat. And if that's the case for you, that is perfectly acceptable. I do think it's important to know what your personal values are so you can use them to inform your overall decisions. There are no right or wrong values, but values can be so helpful when making any decision. Now, values are a topic for another day, but they are something that we dive into inside Cultivate so you can know what is important to you and how to guide your own decisions. But let's go back to the question at hand. What is the difference between restriction and healthy discipline? Or we can say, what's the difference between restriction and making a choice based on what is nurturing and supportive to your body? The short answer to this question is the difference lies in how you feel. It's the energy behind your decision around food. You can't tell if someone is restricting based on what they are eating. The food choices don't equate to restriction. The question is, why are you making those choices? What is the energy behind your decision? So we could go out to a restaurant. Two people could order the exact same thing off the menu. So we have two dishes of food on the table. One person could be making their selection from a place of restriction. They might be thinking, I should order this item. This has the least amount of calories. I really want to eat something else, but I'm trying to lose weight. That food is bad. I can't control myself around that kind of food. I can't eat that food and have the body I want. Those types of things. The other person who is ordering the exact same thing off the menu could be making their selection from empowered choice. They might be thinking, I really enjoy this food. I feel so much better when I eat this way. This will give me the energy I need for my work this afternoon. I love to get a variety of foods in my body. This combination tastes great and helps me feel my best. Something else sounds good, but I'm making this choice based on how I want to feel during and after my eating experience. So when you hear about these two different people ordering the exact same food, but having a very different internal conversation, can you picture what the internal experience of each person might be? Not just what they're thinking, but what are they feeling internally? So our first person here, they might likely feel more pressure, maybe some more tightness in their body. They might be feeling resistance, maybe anxiety or worry. The other one might feel more calm, relaxed, decisive, and intentional. Now, both of them might think that something else on the menu sounds really tasty, but the first one might think, I can't eat that. I shouldn't eat that. It's bad. It's wrong to eat that. I can't control myself around that. And the second person might think, I might get that another time. I know I can get that. I know I could choose that, but I likely wouldn't feel very good later. Or maybe that just isn't the most supportive of the needs I know I have for later in the day. Here's another way to think about this. Who or what has the power in each situation? With restriction, the food has the power. When we talk about healthy discipline, the way we've defined it here in this podcast, the person has the power to choose. So you might think about healthy discipline. Again, these aren't words I would normally use. I love the term empowered choice. So here's an example for you. When I was in my very restrictive phase of eating, I did not give myself choice. I had a lot of rules. I had very strict guidelines. I had a whole list of foods that were bad and that I did not eat. But it was more like I could not eat them. I should not eat them. And I would say that I didn't eat these foods, but really, of course, I did. And when I would eat them, then I would just say, well, I might as well binge because I'm not going to eat this food again starting the next day. So I might as well get as much as I can in now because I won't eat this again starting tomorrow. I thought I couldn't control myself around so many foods, so I just kept them out of my house. I was fine as long as I wasn't around them, but when I was, I couldn't control myself. I was either eating them or thinking about how much I wanted to eat them, but how I couldn't or I shouldn't eat those foods. So here's another way to explore for yourself which is at play, restriction or empowered choice. How much time do you spend thinking about food? If you're constantly thinking about what you're eating, when to eat next, what you should or shouldn't eat, what you have eaten, it's very likely that restriction is at play. So in this scenario that we were just describing, just notice how much power food has in your mind and in your experience. When you're making choices from a place of empowered choice, the choices are natural. They feel relaxed, peaceful, and supportive. This goes back to my original answer. What is the energy behind the choice? How does it feel? Think about why you make the choices that you do around food. Is it because that is what you truly prefer? I've worked with so many people who don't even know what they like to eat because they have spent years or even decades eating what they've been told is the right food to eat or what they should eat in order to lose weight. They have a list that they have been following for decades of foods that are okay. Eat this, don't eat that. If you have a lot of rules, rigidity, judgment, and criticism around your food, now we are not in healthy discipline. We're not in empowered choice. We are in the realm of control, which can be equally as problematic as restriction. Oftentimes, the rules, rigidity, and attempt to control go hand in hand with restriction as well. Sometimes people hear me say remove restrictions, and they think that I mean eat whatever you want, whenever you want, without taking anything else into account. And this simply is not the case. Tune in next week where I will go much deeper into this topic. But for now, just know that when I say remove restrictions, that does not mean remove the idea of making empowered choices that are nurturing and supportive to you. both physically and mentally. So get curious. What is behind your food choices? Is it restriction? Is it discipline based in rigidity, control, and judgment? Or is it empowered choice coming from a place of care and protection for yourself? You will know based on how it feels. You can ask yourself, why am I choosing this? And do I like my reasons? Why or why not? You can eat anything you want, any time you want. But I do encourage you to know your reasons and to like your reasons. If you don't know your reasons, get curious. Curiosity will let you know what those reasons are. But remember this, if you are in shame and judgment about your eating behaviors, you will not be able to access curiosity. Shame and judgment are like putting that lock on the hood. We need to look under the hood to see what's going on. Your eating behaviors, if you're overeating, if you're binging, if you are feeling out of control around food, it's like the light coming on the dashboard. We need to look under the hood to see what's going on. Why am I choosing these things? We need to get curious, but shame and judgment will not let you look under the hood. So get curious, put your shame and judgment aside. Listen to previous episodes about how to do that. Get curious. Why am I making these choices? Once through curiosity, you find your reasons, then we ask, do I like these reasons? If you don't like them, again, we want to put aside shame and judgment and get curious. You are empowered to look at your reasons, to get curious about them, and change them if you want to. There is no right or wrong way to eat. Only what you decide is supportive to you. Not what anyone else says you should do, just what you want to do for you. Know your reasons, like your reasons. And when you support yourself along the way, it will simply change the way you relate to food and to yourself. Now, if you're listening to all of this and you're like, okay, that sounds great. I love this idea, but I have no idea how. I do not know how to even go about this. All I have known is rules. All I have known is restriction. All I have known is judgment and shame. I need help. I have an answer for you. I have an invitation for you to consider if you want to explore this further. I have created a course. It is called the Binge Breakthrough Blueprint. This is a course that you go through on your own. It is a deep dive into the 8 reasons why you binge, why you feel out of control with food sometimes, and the solution to each of the 8 reasons. You will be able to create your own personal blueprint for how you want to eat and the relationship you want to create for yourself with food. Again, there is no right or wrong way. There is no one way to create this. It is about you figuring out what works for you, you being able to get curious to look under the hood. So this is a way that will guide you in creating that for yourself. You can have access to it right away, including audios that will walk you through exactly what to do before a binge, before that time. If you are having this desire to eat a lot of food, it will walk you through exactly what to do. If you are in the middle of eating and you think you just can't stop, it will walk you through exactly what to do. Even afterwards, it will walk you through exactly what to do. If you want to check this out, you can find out more at janepilger.com/blueprint. That's janepilger.com/blueprint. All right. Next week, I am going to explore the idea that many people have that they just want to eat, whatever they want, whenever they want. So if you have thought this before, you will want to hear this episode. Be sure you're subscribed to this podcast so you don't miss it. I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Binge Breakthrough. If you want to understand why you feel out of control with food sometimes, I've created just the thing for you. Discover the number one reason why and get 3 things you can do today. Visit bingebreakthrough.com/quiz and you'll have your answer and your next steps within minutes. That's bingebreakthrough.com/quiz.